Right. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Provincetown.
Yay!
All right. Yes. 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 What a wonderful spot.
Thank you.
Now, when I worked in the town manager's office, this was the rec building.
That's right.
And it was a lot less attractive and functional than this.
It was a rec building?
It was a rec building, yes. And when I came in here, I was looking for Marty Menangus, the old rec director, who's probably long gone. So, my name is Mark Forrest. I'm president of the Cape and Islands Municipal Leaders Association. I want to welcome you all here, and I also want to welcome the folks on Zoom. I think we have a very interesting program today, and I'm looking forward to it. But before we start with our program, I'd like to take care of some introductory business. The first order of business is roll call. Ed, please call the roll.
Quina. Rooster. Rooster? No. Barnstable.
I think it's 2 plus 1. Am I seeing everybody? 2 plus 1?
Born.
1 plus 2.
2 plus 2. Barnstable 2 plus 2.
Born is 1 plus 2.
But actually, it's 2 plus 1 plus 1.
Yeah, there we go.
Chatham.
Get that, Ed?
1 plus 4.
There we go. Hold on, 2.
Wait a second, what was that?
1 plus 4.
Yeah. Dennis.
1.
Chilmark. Eastham.
1 plus 1.
All right.
Edgartown. Falmouth.
1 unless there's somebody online.
Okay.
Longest distance.
Harwich.
3 of us.
Okay. Mashpee.
1.
Orleans.
3 plus 1. All right.
Provincetown.
1 plus 1.
Sandwich. Truro. Tisbury. West Tisbury. Wellfleet.
1.
Plus 1.
Okay.
Yarmouth.
I believe we have 2.
Okay.
2 plus 0. So we have
Sounds right. Yeah, Joyce is online.
Great.
We have 12 towns represented. We do have a quorum.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Next item of business is the treasurer's report.
Twice?
Come on up.
All right.
While he's coming up, also online we have Josie Albert from the MMA.
Welcome.
Excellent.
Thank you, Josie.
Morning,
Good
everybody.
morning. This is the treasurer's report for the month of April 2026. We had an opening balance of $17,530.66. We had 14 cents in interest. Expenses, there was $187.20.25 for the Cape Cod Regional Technical High School March meeting. $37.90 for our monthly coastal internet service. $36.91 for some meeting supplies for this meeting. $13.81 for the monthly contract plan for our contact software. Panera Bread for the April meeting, $225.82. Mark, $160 for the AV services. I have a deposit made for Mickey Brothers Catering for our annual meeting coming up at $156.86 for a total of $818.55 for expenses, leaving a closing balance for April of $16,712.25.
Very good.
So
Do I have-
moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Nominating report. Come on up here, nominating chair.
On the back of the agenda, Steve.
Madam Come on up.
All right,
Stand in front of the owl.
all right. Oh, the owl.
Yeah,
Oh, wow, it looks like an owl.
Yeah.
All right, so he didn't introduce me, but my name is Greg Milne. I'm from the Dregs of Hyannis. And I'm your historian and helped with the nominating committee again this year. I need to thank the rest of the nominating committee. First and foremost, Ed McManus, who's kind of like the glue that keeps this thing going among the rest of us on the board. So Ed was on the nominating committee, and Carlin Carey from Dennis, and Joyce Flynn from Yarmouth. So we worked on the nominating committee together. So, we are making a bit of history. In my 26 years in this association, this is the third instance where this is our first reading. We'll do our final vote on the canal cruise. No better than to adopt our new board while we're on the water, on the Cape Cod Canal, learning about the bridges from the nice lady that you're bringing to be our guest speaker at the canal cruise in June, on June 12th. But our slate is the first reading. So, we have first up, Leslie Sandberg from Provincetown is going to be our next president, starting at the end of this meeting. So Leslie is number 3 in 26 years. Sarah Peak was first in my 26 years, and Austin Knight was number 2.
Wow.
Leslie is number 3, from Provincetown. And then never in my 26 years are we flanking our president and vice president slot to Provincetown to Bourne, because MJ from Bourne is going to be our vice president. And MJ's been on our board for several years, as has Leslie. And then, very important, I know Mark is a big proponent of this. One time, we bumped into each other in the bathroom, and you said, what would we do without Steve?
Yes, I did say
So,
that.
Steve Mealy, that's an exact quote.
I'm not sure it was in the bathroom.
So Steve Mealy is staying on as treasurer, and of course Steve was instrumental in making us into a 501c4 nonprofit, right? Isn't that right, 501c4, Steve? And now a bit of a change, but actually, I don't know if it's so much of a change, because he's been doing a lot of work to send out the notices, which had always been a traditional role of the clerk. Kevin Galligan has stepped up to become clerk, and he's been on our board for many years. So Kevin from Orleans. And then the one position that is non-negotiable, is automatic, is our beloved president, Mr. Mark Forrest, is our immediate past president. So he has to stay on the board. From Yarmouth and County Commissioner. And then Chris Clark from Barnstable is staying on the board, so she'll remain on the board. And then also a longtime member of the board, Doug Brown, who a few years ago was our president. He's our current immediate past president, but Doug is going to stay on the board from Falmouth. And I think his odometer has the longest. I think Falmouth is even longer than Bourne. I think.
Didn't seem that way this morning.
And of course, Ed McManus is staying on board from Harwich, associate member from Harwich. And Ryan Curley from Wellfleet is also remaining on the board. And Ryan is from Wellfleet. I guess Ryan's not here, but I think he had like a medical thing or something. Yeah, he emailed us. And then we have 2 new members of the board. From Mashpee Board of Selectmen, or Select Board, Michaela Colombo, who helped us with the nominating committee last year, and she is online. Michaela is going to be on our board now as a new member. And then, aside from myself remaining on the board as your historian parliamentarian, Jim Plath from Dennis will now be joining our board. It's been quite some time since we had someone from Dennis on the board, so we thank you for stepping up. And I want to thank our former members of the board, Shireen Davis from Chatham. She served for many years, also was president at one point, and also Paula Schnepp from Barnstable, who also was president years back, and they're stepping off the board. So we want to thank them for being supportive.
We're good.
Yes, Shireen, thank you. So that is it for the first reading, and then we hope you all come to the canal cruise, and please, please, please help out Ed and myself on the RSVPs for the canal cruise, because we have to let Minkle Boys Catering know the food number a week before, so that Friday, the first Friday of June, we have to let them know. So
Very
please
good.
RSVP.
Please RSVP.
Yes,
Thanks, Greg.
thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
All right.
Are we inviting spouses and?
Yes, sir, invited, yes.
Very
Yes.
good. The next item that I'd like to draw your attention to is just a brief update from our chairman of the Cape and Islands Water Protection Fund, Kevin Galligan. There have been some developments regarding the environmental bond bill, and I've asked Kevin to update the group on what seems to be going on. Kevin?
Welcome, everybody. As many of us have wastewater projects either under construction, detours, but a few will be in queue for future awards. Thank you to Christy and Erin, who are our administrative support crew for the Cape Cod and Islands Water Protection Fund. You've got a letter circulating that just came out from a vote of the executive board yesterday about a provision that we heard of through, again, thank you to Andrew Gottlieb for raising these, but you'll see in the second paragraph of this letter, the specific section that was added as an amendment, 108 lines 3516 through 3529, that modify the preferential treatment, meaning the scoring, how we're ranked in front of the state revolving fund intended use plan. So anybody that's on from Eastham, you know how important it is to get those points. The language that's been added makes preferential treatment for all discretionary competitive grant programs that are in this Make Ready Act bill, all of them. So if you look at the big paragraph on the back before the closing, we really hone in on the fact that through the SRF program, Cape Cod, again, we remember Title V regs changed greatly to mandate us, and we said, okay, give us the money then. So it's been working since 2018. This will be bad, really bad. It will change the ranking such that there's be preferential ranking for any and all things that are in this environmental bond bill. Probably not what was intended, but people put things in without actually thinking through. So the message here is, as we've said, strike this. Come back, think about it and that better at a future date, or do something that will not harm us. We've gotten this out to all of our legislative delegations. Some of us have already made further calls because we know they're very busy at this time of year. But as Andrew said, they've changed their calendar a little bit. So I'll put it kindly, mischief can continue beyond July 31st. In the old days, it used to be no further changes in July 31st, but once they come out of committee, there can still be actions taken all the way to the end of the year. So again, this will actually, there was 3 pages to this, I just saved paper, but this went to all of the town managers. So get the word out across the electeds and staff and make calls. Really tell people, because you've got the site exactly provision, and say, strike this. It is not timely. Leslie?
Kevin, with somebody in front, and how has Senator Steer reacted to this? Is he?
We've reacted. He's actually one of the co-sponsors of this.
Got it.
So we don't think he really understood the impact.
Got it.
So he's been reached out to. I reached out to Michael Holcomb, his legislative chief.
Got it.
And Andrew's calling folks. But again, any of your interactions with Fernandez or, Zaros, we've also talked to Kip Diggs because this is in House Ways and Means,
Got it.
which he's on. So Kip has gotten some very direct guidance, but fingers crossed this thing goes away.
So we are asking to.
Just a follow-up, MJ.
Yeah.
Kevin, happy to call and do it.
Mhm.
Would you mind, and I'm sorry to ask for extra work,
It's okay.
there's a couple talking points, and where are they?
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically, if you look at that last
So this is-
paragraph,
okay.
use this as your talking points. Basically, this should be struck from this bill.
No, thank you very much.
Yes.
Okay, do you have a question?
Yeah, is it,
Kevin, come on.
is it this section 108 lines
Right.
3516 through 3529 should be
Exactly.
struck?
Should
That's
be
it.
struck.
Okay,
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
that's in like the second end of the second paragraph.
Right.
If you're asking a question, talk towards the owls so the Zoomers can hear you.
Yeah. Any other questions for Kevin?
Josie.
Josie, yes. Did you have a question?
Hey, everybody. I was just going to say the MMA is on this section as well as one that we are opposing and asking them to reconsider. So just wanted to share that with the group.
Thank you, MMA. That's great. That's great. Anybody else for Kevin? Very important issue. It's important that we raise it today. Yes.
Yeah, very lucky for Barnstable. I don't understand what the qualitative or quantitative aspect, sufficient to meet Commonwealth House, what does that even mean?
Well, there you go. There you go. That's the concern. It's so broadly defined. It can mean almost anything.
Right.
All right. I think those of us that have been doing this for a long time realize that the communities are gradually losing control. Home rule is becoming something that is a memory of the distant past, okay? We used to have, right, Alan? We used to have home rule. Towns used to be able to control in some degree their own destiny. And the state used to be there to provide help and support. But what's happened now is the state increasingly is dictating what we do on a whole range of things. This language is dangerous, and it's evidence of a further erosion of an attitude on Beacon Hill to take away more local control. All right? So it's important that people speak out, let their legislators know. I'm very happy that Josie's on it at MMA because we need their help on this issue. It's very, very important for us. Very important. Yes, Jim.
Mark, is this an outside section or part of the?
I think it was adopted in the bill. Isn't that correct, Kevin?
It was submitted as amendment, it's in House Ways and Means right now.
So it's passed the Senate. All right? So they're a third of the way there. Okay? So we've got to stop this. Anybody else on this? Very, very good. Okay, the next part of our agenda is to turn the program over to our friends here in Provincetown. I'm going to ask Leslie Sandberg to come up, make some welcoming remarks, give kudos to the Center for Coastal Studies, and then invite our guest speaker to come up to the podium.
Thank you, Kevin. Good morning, everybody. How are you? Thank you for coming out to Provincetown, especially those who traveled from Bourne and Falmouth. Very appreciative, and it's lovely to have a Dennis member on our board coming up. I'm Leslie Sandberg. I'm the Vice President of the Association, and I first wanted to, before we do a shout out in Provincetown, I wanted to bring up Anne-Marie Renfola, who is the Executive Director of the Center for Coastal Studies, which is a world-renowned, shall we say, agency that studies everything from marine life and protecting it, but also coastal erosion, and you guys have been very, very helpful in Provincetown with what our issues have been. So Anne-Marie, just come up and say a few things.
Glad to hear it. Thanks so much, Leslie, and thanks to Mark, and also Mike Dutton. Is he here yet?
Not yet, he'll be here.
For
He's
inviting
probably
me.
finding a parking spot. Yeah. That could take a while.
She just parked up by us and walked down. So thanks so much for inviting me for this opportunity. I didn't even know that this group existed. I've lived in Falmouth for 16 years. I know Doug very well, and I know some of you have known you for a long time. I was with NOAA, Office of National Marine Sanctuaries, for the last 15 years, so a partner of Center for Coastal Studies for years. And I've just been the executive director now at the center for just this past year, and it's been a wonderful experience. Love being in Provincetown. Again, back in Provincetown, I was in DC for the past 3 years before. Live in Falmouth, but do have a garage apartment in Truro now.
You're lucky.
I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but is there who already knew about the Center for Coastal Studies? I know some.
I think we all do.
Really?
Yeah.
Wait,
Oh, yeah.
Dan didn't raise his hand. Was there anyone who didn't? Really? Oh, I'm gonna have a little tear in my eye. That's good. Well, you know we work with some of you, and if we're not, that's one of the many reasons we're inviting you for a quick lab tour. And also, if you want to stay for a meeting with Michael Dutton and with Christy and Aaron from the Cape Cod Commission, we're going to talk about things that we offer, and especially in our 50th year this year, we're celebrating our 50th anniversary. We're doing a strategic plan, and we're really looking at, we've grown quite a bit since the beginning. We're really looking at what services do we provide now? What are we known for? But what do you need? And how can we match what we can offer with what our communities need? And that's how the center was born 50 years ago. 3 PhDs coming to Provincetown, coming back home in the case of Dr. Charles Stormy Mayo. Those of you who know Stormy, who's still with us, by the way, as an emeritus and doing great work, as is Dr. Graham Geis, who was the coastal geologist, who's at 90 years old, is working in one of our 2 UMass Boston marine geology labs that we have. Incredible, and doing a groundbreaking paper right now that will be out soon. I cannot wait. So talking about coastal erosion. I could wax poetic. This is a teaser to get you to come up, but you know, they came to Provincetown to look at what the needs were, use their powers for good, and since that time, that's what we've been doing. We do it through, intentional science that matters, intentional, unbiased research, through rescue, so we have our Marine Animal Entanglement Response Program, and through education is really important to us as well. And we've got 16 programs now, from a little garage attic, like storage room is where they started working, to our 12,000 square foot Hebert lab, which is, if you know St. Peter the Apostle Church, Grace Hall lot, in case any of you want to come, it's just a 8-minute walk around Bradford and up Prince. And if you want to park, Grace Hall parking lot is right there at St. Peter the Apostle. And I can leave the address also with you, because I'll probably leave a little bit ahead of you. I'm going to listen, and I want to hear what Dan has to say. But we'll do a short, just 30 or 40-minute lab tour so you can see some of our facilities and see our life-size humpback skeleton and talk to some of our researchers. And then some of them are going to come in, particularly those who already work with the municipalities in the county, and a few others who are curious as well, and just have a good strategic discussion for up to 1 hour at the most. Maybe not even, depends on how many. Do we know how many may come? I know, who's from Harwich who RSVP'd? Thank you, thank you, I met you before, yeah. And you RSVP'd for somebody else. Who she said, I don't know if you'll remember to RSVP. Thank you.
I was busy.
Well, we welcome you, yeah, for sure. And I think I'm gonna stop there because I know you've got a busy agenda.
No, we're glad you're here, and I've taken the tour, and it's fabulous. It's amazing what you all do. So thank you, Anne Marie, for coming, and thank you for the offer of the tour. Appreciate it.
A pleasure.
Thank you. Okay, I guess because we're in Provincetown, we get to do a little shout out, talk about some of the things we do, but I also want to say, if any of you get a parking ticket, let me know. Dan and I have talked, we'll make sure that you're not having to pay a fine, because I know some of you came in before the parking system software turns on, so just know, we're not gonna fix them, we'll just take care of them. There is a difference, so, anyway, we're very, very proud. There's a couple housing issues that I want to raise that we're very proud of. If you came in through Shane Painter by our police station, you probably saw this right across the street on Jerome Smith, this big complex that looks like it's finished. That's called Province Post, and it's something that we're incredibly proud of. That is something that on the VFW, that property was purchased over a decade ago and nothing happened, and what we were able to do as a select board in the last few years, having a really good town staff manager and assistant town manager, we were able to get Province Post through, and we're going to have 65 units of housing, 4 market rate, and 61 are going to be for people that make 80% AMI and under. It's fantastic. I mean, I walk around town and people say, I'm applying, and it's so nice to hear it, and they're coming from all walks of life, which we appreciate, and so that's something that we're very proud of, because we actually got something done that was important and hopefully will be a game changer for us here in Provincetown. We still have a need, there's still a crisis, but it's really nice to see that we're gonna have a ribbon cutting. Is it gonna be in June, our ribbon cutting?
Ribbon cutting in June, lotteries in a week and a half.
And that's the thing, the applications end next week, and then the lottery starts, and we hope to actually have people in there probably this fall. So it's moving quickly, and so it's something that, you know, we finally did it, and it felt really good. Also, we've had a lot of support of our town, and that'll come in with what Dan talked about. A lot of the communication around it helped bring a lot of support for it. We also, yes, Betty?
These rentals or ownership?
Rentals.
Okay.
Rentals, and these are the rentals, and we were able to, the rentals. We have another project that's down the pike that we're gonna have home ownership, but we're not ready to unveil it quite yet. We have something called Lease to Locals. Lease to Locals, if you're not familiar with it, I think Eastham is, we've got Orleans and Eastham is doing it. Basically what it is, there was a group out of Truckee, California, a group called Placemate, that figured out there's a problem with short-term rentals. Well, guess what? Let's give them a financial incentive to turn the short-term rentals into year-round rentals. And basically, we said we're gonna try it, we put money out, and basically we've been doing it for 3 years, and what it is that if you're someone who rents for short-term, and let's say you make $50,000 a season, but if you do it year-round, you only make $40,000. We pay the difference. We have a subsidy, which is a financial incentive to make up the difference. We didn't know what was gonna happen with it. It's been a big success. It's been an incredible success, and we've had, 77 people are now housed across 51 participating properties. So what's nice is that's something that we can do short-term. And what was it about, $600,000 we've spent so far?
Yep.
think about it, 77 people have year-round housing for $600,000. You can't buy a place here for that.
You can't build a place.
You can't, exactly. So when you think about it, that's something that is a really important need, and it's happening. Also, Chilmark and Tisbury on the Vineyard have reached out, and they're doing it. So and I want to also let you know that the subsidy is from short-term rental money. So our taxes that we get from short-term rentals have been turned around and being used for housing for year-round people. So it's a lovely kind of, think about it, a cycle. Chris, you had a question?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, how was it funded?
Yeah, short-term rental, in fact, most if not all of our housing at this point in time has been done through our rooms tax. We get about $5 million in, and we've been able to do that. So that's something else, and what's really nice is that also helps with the support of the projects. If you're not raising people's property taxes, they're more likely to support something. But we wanted to make sure in our town that our short-term rental tax went directly to housing, and it's proved to be very helpful for us.
Leslie, do you have a cap on short-term rentals here in Provincetown? I mean, what's to prevent people from declaring their property a short-term rental and then just taking advantage of that subsidy, you know?
Well, first and foremost, if they want to take advantage of that subsidy, we're going to put someone who's year-round in a house. So that's a lovely thing. Secondly, we don't have a cap on short-term rentals, but what we did is we did a study because everybody was running around saying, oh my God, short-term rentals are taking over Provincetown. It's terrible. We've got so many, and we thought we had about 1,600. Well, that was Department of Revenue information. And the Department of Revenue, basically, if you list your property on 3 different platforms, they're going to count it 3 times. So we took a study, and we went and looked at it, and really, we only had 890. And then suddenly, we found out that the corporations are going to take over. They're not. The corporations, it's actually people, first off, let me finish this. It's actually people who want to live here. So they buy here, and they short-term rent until they retire. So we'd actually had lost short-term rentals, because once they're here, they don't want to do it. So we've stayed at that about 890 for a few years, I think about 4 or 5 years now. So it's actually leveled off. What has happened for the corporatization here in Provincetown, it's our hotels, and it's our B&Bs. And suddenly, those prices have gone skyrocketing, and guess what? Short-term rentals now are actually a better deal, because they average about $300 to $400 a night. And then you've got the Brass Key up here, which is a lovely place. $1,100 a night for 4th of July. Yeah, so I mean, that's the thing. So everything that you've heard, it did not apply here in Provincetown. I can't speak for other towns, but what I would say is, first off, that software that we got, that's what we call it scrubbing the platforms to find out how much short-term rentals you have, really helps because it gives you a universe. And also, if you want to look at this, get a study. The UMass Donahue Institute did a great job doing that and giving us a study for it, so we knew what our universe was. A shout out to Falmouth. Doug, you guys figured out with your health agent that you have, what, about 700?
Oh, we don't really have the number yet. We haven't bought the software.
But he had something. He had done it himself. I remember. I mean, I was just impressed that
we were actually almost double that.
Yeah,
but we're still guessing. We're not really sure.
Yeah, well, I would say if you're looking at something to find the universe, get the software, and we can help you. Dan has been helping people who have called around, so if we can, just so you know, that's something that the short-term rentals can answer your question.
Could you send that information on that program you referenced out of California, so we can get a...
For lease to locals?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll send it, we'll write up something and we'll give it to Kevin to send out, okay? Great. It is an amazing situation that we found that, and it took, it was a leap of faith. But that leap of faith, 77 people have year-round housing, and that's pretty darn good. So wanted to let you know that. We have the Center for Coastal Studies here. I wanted to also let you know we're really proud of our coastal resiliency plan that we've done. We basically have had to. A couple of years ago, we had a few storms that were flooding the east end and flooding the west end. It was pretty bad. So we said we got to do something about it. And thankfully, under the leadership of Dan and Alex Morse, that we put together what we call the CRAB Committee. Coastal Resilience.
What's crack? No, it's crack.
Exactly. We like to change our acronyms here. The Coastal Resiliency Accountability Board. It basically what it was, we took people from conservation, from planning, from historic, and what's the other one, Dan, that we missed? And a couple at large. The bottom line is we put them together and we said, let's put a plan together. So they did some modeling and they worked with people, and we have modeling for 2030, 2050, and 2070. What happens if we don't do something? And I live on the east end, up on the dune, and if we don't do something by 2070,
You're an island. Surrounded by
I actually have
an island.
a waterfront property. And it's laughable, but it's like, it was amazing to see what we needed to do. And actually, so that's the long term, how to figure it out. But we're also already, we deployed flood barriers, they lock. And so you have sandbags, you have these flood barriers, and the bottom line is when the water comes in, we're able to put the water and have it move to drains. So that's something that we had to do in the short term, and it was very helpful because there were a group of people that kept getting flooded, and we just couldn't do that anymore. We needed to do something to help them. So we've done a lot of things. We're also getting grants for ongoing research for it. We're looking at now with some of our coastal properties, creating dunes for them, and perhaps bulkheads that you have so that you have some barrier. We're also looking on the east end. If you look out, we have these things that look like cones that are in our water. Those are wave attenuators. We're looking at expanding those on the east end to help break up the waves when they come in. We have some on the west end. So there's a lot of things that we're doing, but we had to do this because we can't wait. So if we never help you with anything, give us a call. And then lastly, we have townwide sewer project. By 2030s, we should have the whole town sewer, which is amazing, and we're very grateful for that. So with all this, and through all the advances we're making, the town prioritized clear, consistent communication. And we were able to do that, and we were able to get a lot of community engagement and support behind us because of the man that I'm going to introduce. Dan Ravello is our assistant town manager, and he is called the dean of students by the town staff because he handles things internally, and it's great. But he's also put together communication for us that has been groundbreaking, and especially this past blizzard, which was horrible. Dan made sure that our warming station was up and running and there 24 hours. He got confirmation, he got in communication out in a timely fashion and made sure that everyone who needed help did. And it wasn't just Provincetown, it actually expanded to Truro. So I'm just very proud to work with him, and I'm proud to introduce Dan Ravello, our assistant town manager.
Good morning, everyone. How are you? Thank you so much for having me. As I said, Dan Ravello, Assistant Town Manager in Provincetown. And I want to thank Mark for asking me to do this and also for the great title. I think this was yours. So, going to talk about a lot of stuff today. I don't think anything that I'm going to go through is particularly groundbreaking, to be honest, but I think it's really important to name it and remember some of these things as we're all working through some of the same issues. So quickly, just a little bit about me. I started my career in municipal government about 15 years ago. I was the first civilian public information officer at the Cambridge Police Department. I was hired after the infamous beer summit, if anybody remembers that, with President Obama and Henry Louis Gates and one of our police officers. So that's how I started my career. So sort of right into the fire. There had been a uniformed PIO who had been the public information officer for probably 30 years, and once all the news trucks started rolling up outside the station, he retired to New Hampshire and opened an ice cream shop. So I got a job. But so I've led communications in Cambridge, 120,000 residents, and now in Provincetown, 3,600 year-round residents on a bunch of complex issues, both large and small. And I will say it's sort of completely different. In a way, Cambridge was actually an easier place to communicate because things weren't so granular and weren't so personal. Things here, in these small towns, it's much more difficult because the person who's making the negative comment, you know them, it's your neighbor, you play tennis with them, you see them at the restaurant. So it's a little bit closer and more difficult to handle. I've coordinated public information during major events and emergencies, and I've helped develop multi-communication channels. So, the new reality that we're all living. Local government communications have fundamentally changed. We all know that. It's weird to think that we're about 20 years into social media at this point. And how at first it really seemed like a tool that was going to help connect us and share information. It was going to be great. And it's really turned, I would say, in the last 10 years, but specifically probably since COVID. It's really become much more negative and just been a place for people to air grievances. So some of the reasons for that, we all know about the decline of local journalism has sort of left an information vacuum. Social media now fills that void. Anybody thinks that they're a publisher or they know the right information about everything. So that misinformation and half-truths go out there. Residents increasingly get their news on Facebook from what others are posting and what they're seeing. My mom the other day said to me, I don't know what's going on, but I feel like everything I see, I can't trust anymore. And it was really interesting. I mean, my mother who, just sort of a normal lady, lives in Plymouth and, just used to get her news on Facebook, and now she's like, I feel like everything, I don't know what to believe. And so the town now has to sort of step in and become a publisher and fill that role. So as you know, silence or slow response is often filled by speculation, and so we need to be quick, concise, and truthful as much as we can. So why all of that matters? As you all know, this is undermining trust in local government. It can quickly escalate routine issues into full-blown crises. One of the things I don't think we talk enough about is that it really does harm the staff. It increases staff burnout. People feel personally attacked about issues. They don't want to get involved or lean in because they feel like they're going to be targeted. Makes decision-making harder for boards and local officials, and it also makes it difficult to recruit good candidates to run for office, right? You really want to put yourself in that position where you're taking all of that heat all of the time with misinformation online and character attacks. So good communication now is a core public service. It's not something that I think folks used to view as a nice to have. It would be great if we had a comms person. It really now is necessary for local government to function. So as I mentioned, town is now really a primary news source. So whether we like it or not, we have to be a publisher. So back in the day, you could put out press releases and that would be good enough. What I've always tried to do is write the press release in the voice as if you're publishing it yourself. Don't use jargon that's going to try to appeal to journalists. Take the press release, take that same information, put it on your website, share a snippet of it on social media, and make sure it links back to the official source, which is now the town website. Again, social media posts shared more widely than official notices most of the time. Residents expect direct and timely communication, whether there's a crisis or not. And then the town website, email, and social media must all work together and sort of repeat that message across different channels at the same time. So a couple of best practices. So the first is sort of obvious. We need to be much more proactive and not reactive to issues. Get ahead of the narrative as much as we can. Share truthful information, especially about big projects or issues before rumors start. Explain decisions early. Why are we doing this? How is it going to affect you? What I try to do as much as possible is think like a resident. What is the average resident? What are the questions they are going to ask when we start this new program, when we ask for this override, when we put out this new process? What are those questions? And then answer them up front in the communication so that you're not being reactive to the questions that start to flood in via social media or other ways. Another important reminder is to use plain language. You know, we all talk about the acronyms. We were talking about crack or crab or whatever our boards are called. But try to avoid that in that municipal jargon as much as possible. People don't understand what all of these things stand for. They want to know what we're talking about, what it means for them. We should be writing at an 8th grade reading level so that it's accessible to all folks that are trying to view these communications.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah.
That's really sad.
Yes.
Sad but true. And you know, this is actually a place where I think AI can be really helpful. If you have a communication and you've read it a couple of times and you go, you know, this just doesn't read quite right, or it makes sense to me, but I'm not sure somebody else is going to get it. Throw it into ChatGPT or whatever your favorite AI of the week is, and say, you know, make this more plain language, bring it down to an 8th grade reading level so that the average person can comprehend it.
There used to be a great training called Water Words That Work for communicating science messages to the public, and they showed us how, I'm just looking down, Word has a check.
Yep.
Where you can check the level, so if you're not
Yep.
sure, I'm looking now to see if I can find it, but is it still a tool in Word?
Yes.
To tell you what level you're at? Yeah.
One of the other things that I try to put in all of my communications is using headers and bullets to sort of break up the content so that it's not just one long written notice. I do this a lot in the memos that we create for our packet for the select board so that information is more digestible and we can refer to specific sections with information about it. And then say what you know, and then be honest about, sometimes there's things that you don't know yet, right? So communicate that. Oh, we're still looking into that. We're getting more information. We're waiting on the results of, right? So that people don't think that we have all the answers, because while we like to think that we do, we don't always, certainly with that first communication. So we want to meet people where they are, right? Again, we talk about those multiple channels. Sometimes we think, oh, it's up on the town website, that's good enough. It's not. It needs to be on the town website. That is our ultimate source of truth and information for everyone. But we need to then figure out how we reach people with that information rather than expecting that they're always going to come to us. So implement email and text alerts for important updates, and especially in emergency situations. Use your social media multiple times a week. Again, not just to put out fluffy content and try to get likes, but to share important updates about different projects and then linking back to the original source, which is the town website. And then you have those in-person meetings that are really there for trust, additional context, and direct feedback from residents. We also still do a lot of things on paper. We still need to have that channel available. So we do mailers for really important things. I have one that should be dropping in people's mailboxes this week with information about our resident survey. So hopefully, Leslie, you'll get that in your mailbox in the next couple of days. But we also do handouts when we do things like surveys. When we put out the information on the town website and share it on social media, we remind people that paper copies of those surveys are available in specific locations in town so that people can contribute that way as well. Sorry, you had your hand up.
And don't presume that if it's on your website that people can find it. Exactly. It's impossible to find stuff on the Harwich website.
Yeah, no, that's actually a great point, and I will say that it's not in this presentation, but we all probably use the Civic Plus website platform. And while they look very nice and can function very well, the search is horrific. It's not just your town, it's all of our towns. So one of the things that I actually implemented last year is I built an AI search agent and embedded it in the bottom corner of our website. So now when folks go there and they can just say, how do I get a parking permit? Rather than having to try to search through Civic Plus and get every old news story about parking permits since 2007 that's no longer valid, it takes them directly to the parking permit page and says, here's where you can apply. Has really been amazing, has gotten over 300 uses just in the last couple of months. And what's really great about it is I control the back end of it. So I can see every question that's asked and every answer that's given. And I go in, I remind myself once every couple of weeks to go in and see what that is. And when there's a response that's not quite right, I can teach the AI what the right answer is in the future so it gives them the right answer the next time.
I always tell people just use Google search.
That's what I did on your own town website.
Well, you do the Google search and it takes you through the website.
Takes you to the right place in your website.
Yes.
It is.
So, addressing misinformation. This is a really important part of this. I think, again, with the way that social media has been for the last couple of years, I think that there has been an urge to try to correct the record on social media. Somebody feels like they want to jump in, no matter where the information is, and say, no, that's not right. Here's what's going on. You're only going to get dragged deeper into the mud. My philosophy has always been not to engage in the Provincetown community space or whatever your local Facebook group is that sort of does all of that nonsense. Don't engage there. Monitor it. You need to know what's going on, you need to see what the topics are. But what I've found really useful is to then sort of redirect the conversation to the town's page, where I use things relatedly, like maybe the next day I'll post something. Did you know about XYZ program that we have, right? So a more positive spin to just remind people of what the true information is, what we really are doing. And then you do often have advocates who will realize that happened, take that screenshot or that link and share it back into that negative thread on the community space to sort of educate people for you. I found that to be much more useful. When I got here, there was a real fear among town staff about Facebook and previous town managers wanting them to engage and monitoring it and saying stuff. We don't do any of that. Town staff are not responding to things that end up on those community pages. If things come up, they can bring it to my attention. Again, we'll try to redirect on the town page and get the truth out there, but try to stay out of the mud as much as possible.
Dan,
Yes.
Can I add, when he responds, when he does it as a town of Provincetown too.
Right.
Which is, I think, important because
Correct.
it shows it's united, it's the town speaking, so just wanted to.
Yep.
You know, Dan, when I got on the select board in 2016, my chair said, stay off of Facebook, don't get into any of that stuff. But, you know, we had a lot of groups that were forming and a lot of negativity, and I just refused to ignore it. And I would just go on and politely say, I'm sorry, you know, they're not correct about that, and it did exactly what you're saying not to do. But it really did really turn the tide.
Yeah.
And now I get tagged all the time, Doug, what's wrong with this, what's going on with that? And I find it to be useful, but you gotta be real careful.
You do have to, Doug and I share that, where I go in, if it's really misinformation, sometimes if you don't address it right away, it just blows up into, it escalates, but you have to be really careful how you do it. And I'm a select board member.
Yep.
So I have to say, I'm speaking for myself, I'm not speaking for the board,
Yep.
but you should look here, this is,
Yeah, no, and that's totally valid, and I think it depends on the relationship you have with your community. It depends on the bandwidth you have to do that. One of the things I was always taught in my communications training is that you don't really ever want the chief executive to be the lead face of the communications, because if you get something wrong, who's gonna be able to walk it back, right? You always sort of wanna have the second or third person be the one that's more out front with that. So if somebody needs to get thrown under the bus, the town manager can throw me under the bus, right? But that is sort of the way that I've always looked at it, and it was specifically with my police training. We never had the chief out front of an issue first, right? Because people expected quick information, and the first information that you're getting out, often in a public safety incident, is gonna evolve and it's not gonna be correct. So we always had a deputy out there first, and then the chief, when there was more solid stuff, could provide further detail at a later time.
You know, just going on what Doug said, you said that people see stuff on social media and they don't know what to believe, you know, but I'm understanding more and more, when somebody sees something on social media, they question it right away. In other words, they say, if it doesn't sound real,
Yeah.
if it sounds over the top, the first thing they think is, well, wait a minute, this can't be right. And then in turn would go to an official posting by the town or stuff like that. So I think the tide has turned in a way in social media. People are very, very suspicious, very, very cynical about it.
I think that's true, but I think there's also been, these news sources that have popped up that people think are sources of truth, right? And because they present or look and have the look and feel and tone of an official news source, and are often providing misinformation or just one side of an issue. So I think, there's a little bit of difficulty there. Sorry, go ahead.
In addition to the social media misinformation, two places that we deal with it a lot is public speak at select board meetings and town meetings. And the opportunity to correct that on the spot doesn't exist. And the answer is to try to get something out on the website or whatever, which doesn't really accomplish much either.
Can I take that one? Because I've had that, we've had terrible situations in Provincetown where people know they have the 3 minutes and we can't respond. So they use the 3 minutes just to pass misinformation. We recently had it, and the whole board, because we were able to talk about, it was something to do at our town meeting, and we had a town meeting agenda item, the whole board took that time to correct it, and what was nice, it was on television. So, and some people watched, and I actually got people that texted me and said, thank you for what you said, thank you for what you did, thank you for correcting it. So what I would suggest is that if you can, try to figure out a time either we also have our select board statements that are 5 minutes. We've had, people, so we don't correct it while they're talking, but we talk about it during our time. So it's like, there's a couple ways to do it. You can either have an agenda item to talk about it. I mean, we went so far as to say to Dan, it was about our bathroom issue. All right, I don't know if you heard about it, but it's about the gender neutral bathroom. And we did what we could and what we were asked to do. And one of the people that was supposed to be in the working group decided that he did not like how it was going, so he took his balls and he went home, his toys and went home. Then he said he didn't get a chance to be heard, which is not true. We told him that we had to say no because government can only do so much. He wanted a $1.2 million bathroom. And he, so the point is, and he said that we were breaking the law. So we answered all those questions. And we also made the point to say, we made a good faith effort to help this person and to help this community. And it was that person who led the charge to kill it at town meeting. That's so that we were able to get to that. So I don't want to go on further, but just know there are opportunities within your meeting itself to address some of these things.
Yeah, and one of the things that the select board will often do is when we get to the town manager's report, if there are things in public comment that need to be corrected, one of the select board members, often Leslie, will ask us to respond to that, which is really helpful.
Well, I'm a former press secretary, that's why.
You can
And then
do that
also-
in the open meeting law?
Yep. As long as it's tied to something, in other words, you can do it with open meeting law in your statement, because we're allowed to say anything in our statement, and they're allowed to say anything in their statement. If your agenda item, we were talking specifically about town meeting, and the public comment had been about town meeting, so we were able to talk about it that way. We haven't gotten Ron Beatty coming at us yet. Yeah, I'm not trying to flip, but I'm just saying that.
No, I know, but our public comment is only on non-agenda items. So if they have a public comment on an agenda item, they can't make it.
No, they can talk about anything with us. We don't have it on non-agenda items, we have it, they can talk about anything.
And you have your statement at each meeting?
Yeah, 5 minutes. It's, the agenda item is public statements come first, well, consent comes first, public statements, select board statements, 5 minutes. And at the end of the meeting, we have another chance to say something.
Closing statement.
Because we have lived in a town where there's been a lot of misinformation and a lot of people that want to have, the authority. They talk with a very authoritative tone, supposedly they know what they're talking about.
I know what that's.
So, yeah, that's how we do it.
But do you always use it, the 5 minutes, or?
No, there's times where you'll see we'll go, I yield, I can talk about it later. I yield. And because we also, it depends on, sometimes we don't have public comments, so it's like we don't, some people use it and they can bloviate.
Yeah.
Most of us, when it's like we see that it's gonna be a big meeting, we yield our time.
Yeah.
So that.
Yeah. We had a
It's
question.
just, there's no restriction on what the select board statement can cover.
No.
So even if it's not on the agenda, or,
We had a select board member a long time ago that talked about her weekend. And I'm not kidding, and she's allowed to do that. So no, there's no guardrails on it. So it's been a nice, for us, it's been a nice piece to have. They get 3 minutes, we get 5 at the beginning. We also get something at the end, and usually by the end of the meeting, we're like, yield.
All right, we got a hand up here.
And just in terms of, treat every microphone as if it's on, even when they tell you it's off. I turned the owl cameras back on again so the Zoomers could see who's asking the question. So if you could have like one person speak at a time, the camera sort of whips around to whoever's talking. So if somebody's making a side comment, it'll whip around.
I hope they're not getting seasick online. Anyway. All right. So next one is tone. Tone really matters. People often read the tone before they read the content. I think we experience that on our side. You can tell by the tone of the comments that are coming in. So we always want to remember to be respectful, even when the criticism isn't. Avoid sarcasm, blame, or legalistic language. Acknowledge frustration before explaining. And remember that most residents want to be heard, not fought with. Something I don't have on this slide, but that I want to add is that, don't try to be too cute. I feel like there is, sometimes there's a different thought that we need to try to be content creators and we need to try to go viral, and I think that may make you have some higher highs, more likes on social media, but it's gonna lead to lower lows, because if you don't keep that official tone and you try to be too cute, I think when there are real serious issues that you have to communicate on, it's gonna be more difficult to switch into that tone. So don't jump between tones. Keep that more official, relatable, responsive tone as much as you can. That calm, consistent tone is what builds your credibility on social media over time.
I think I got lost. Clicks.
Sorry.
It's all right. There we go. Another best practice, make sure that you're supporting staff and elected officials. So one of the things I think we try to do really well, and Leslie can correct me if I'm wrong, but we try to provide as much context and details to our boards up front, and our staff as well, so they know what's going on, they're updated on things, either in line with or before the public is, especially when there's major events or crises. Try to get an update out to the select board via email before we put out an alert to say, here's what we're gonna be putting out to the public, or before a storm hits, here are all the internal planning things that we've done, here's what we expect, reach out if you have any questions. I think it's served us really well when major events have happened. I'm not getting bombarded with different select board members asking questions or being angry about what's being said or what isn't being said, so that's really important. Make sure that, you know, communications is really something that needs to be, there needs to be buy-in from all department heads and really staff at all levels so that you can align messaging across departments. I don't want to see DPW putting out information on Facebook about some program or some construction project that the town manager's office doesn't know first. So we've done a much better job trying to align those things so that we can put it out and then we can share it across multiple pages where it makes sense. Establish who responds and where. Again, we've made it pretty clear to staff you shouldn't be responding in those Facebook community groups. But if you see issues, bring them to me and we can figure out if or how or where we need to respond to those things. And then this is a really hard one, but normalize stepping away from it. I know it's particularly difficult for elected officials to sort of step out of it sometimes, really difficult for town staff, but there'll be times where you post something on Facebook, even on the town's page, and the comments sort of devolve to another issue. And that's when it's time to step away. If there are comments and questions related to the particular post, answer them as well as you can. But if it then sidetracks to, well, what about this thing that's unrelated? I just sort of let it die on the vine.
That's where the Streisand, so the more Barbara Streisand talked about her home address, the more people shared that information, so just defending against that information made it more widespread.
Right. Great point.
Can I just bring up one thing? We
Sure.
just had a post from our DPW about an intersection project, and they have a Facebook page. They don't use it a lot because our town manager thinks that our website should be the only source of information, so, but they did post it on Facebook, but they did not allow comments, they just posted it, and so it started this whole thing about, they're not allowing comments, they're not allowing comments. And I did answer, and I said, this is an informational post intended to inform the residents about something that's happening. If you have questions, you should call DPW directly. And I did get some likes, and somebody else said, well, they should still have comments. I'm like, I didn't answer that.
Yeah, I mean, the comments are difficult. We always allow comments. It feels like we should, as, you know, public organizations allow people to comment on things. And I actually, you know, for all the issues that come with it and the negativity and the whatnot, you do learn a lot of good kernels of information in the comments that will often help me refine the original communication or do a better job communicating in the future. There was a specific instance last week about, our annual town election is on Tuesday. And we had a small override on the ballot to bring Cape Air service back year-round. The ballot was finalized before town meeting. It did not pass at town meeting, but that question is still gonna be on the ballot. And so we posted that here's what's gonna be on the annual town election ballot. I described in a few sentences what I thought made sense related to why the question was still on there. And it generated some, well, why? We already voted this down, why would it be there? But when I read some of them, it helped me refine the message, and I went and I was able to update the website with a little bit more information to try to make it clearer for folks. And within a couple of hours, that hasn't, now it's been a week and nobody has commented about it again. So yes, the comments are tough, but they can also really help you do a better job refining what you're saying.
Appreciate that.
And can I just respond to that?
Yeah.
You mentioned refining your message.
Yep.
So the comments, as you monitor them, they're helpful in refining your message.
Yep.
So I could assume it's common that you will post something on the town website, get it out in a variety of ways,
Yep.
but periodically refine the statement, the facts, and so forth, to deal with how the conversation might be evolving.
Right, and that's why, again, we go back to the town website being the source of the true source of the information, so that, you know, once it's out there on social and people have shared it or have a screenshot of it, that's that part of the information, right? But if everything is linking back to that true source on the website, that's where we can always go refine, update, add. Sometimes maybe there's a whole FAQ section we need to add after the fact because of questions we've gotten or things like that.
Dan, can you also let them know that's a practice that you and Alex also do before town meeting?
Oh, yeah.
Can you just touch on that? That might
Yeah,
be
I mean, that's one of the, I think why town meeting has been so successful in one night for the past couple of years, because we do a lot of work up front thinking about what questions residents are gonna ask, putting that into a presentation. Then we do basically a full dress rehearsal, a town meeting forum, a week to 2 weeks before, online and in person, where the public is invited. We go through every single article, all of our explanations we're gonna give at town meeting, and then we get real-time questions and feedback. That gives us another week for Alex and I to sit together, refine the final slides for town meeting even further, so that questions that may have come up that we didn't think about or didn't have an answer to, we will by the time we get to the floor.
And then there's a middle ground with comments too, where you can turn them on for the first couple of days, where there's like thoughtful debate, and then turn them off, and people sort of know that debate has been closed, and that way the bitter enders aren't gonna go ad nauseum on stuff a year later.
All right, the next one is communications and operations. For me, I think they really go hand in hand. This is one of the most important things I've found in my career in municipal government, is that they have to be integrated. Effective communications starts with understanding how decisions are actually made and why, because you're gonna be able to describe that better publicly when the people who are responsible for communicating are in the room with the people who are responsible for making decisions. A siloed communications role isn't enough. I think that's where a lot of municipalities started maybe 20 or so years ago, that, oh, we need a comms person, and they're gonna sit over there in that cubicle and we're gonna bring them stuff to figure out how to put out to the public. It doesn't really work that well. They need to be in the room, and with all of our tight budgets, that communications expertise really needs to be integrated into another role within the organization, because, you know, even in our towns, communications is a full-time job, but there's some times of the year where I don't know what just a director of communications would be doing on a random Wednesday in Provincetown, but, you know, anyway. So like I said, they should be in the room, and then they need to be empowered to ask those questions and sort of push back on the decision makers. That doesn't really make sense to me. Why are we doing that? Why are we saying it that way? Oh, well, that's the way that we've always done it. Okay, well, that's not gonna cut it anymore. Why? Is there a different way that we could be thinking about this? What are residents expecting of us? One silly example was, you know, we all had a terrible winter. We do not do curbside brush pickup in Provincetown. I went to DPW and I said, people have got tree limbs and stuff. They don't know how to get rid of this. They don't have trucks. Second homeowners are gonna be coming back this spring and their yard's gonna be a mess. What are we gonna do? And DPW is like, well, they can bring it to the transfer station. Like, well, they can't. This is a whole different level of what a normal winter is like. So I really want to do curbside brush pickup. And they said, well, we've never done that before. Well, that's all right, we can figure it out. And so we figured it out. There was going to be 1 week at the end of April that we were going to go around curbside and pick it up on people's regular trash day. And we put out that communication, and I think people really appreciated it.
They thanked me. Now you can do with it.
Yeah, that's not true. You hired Alex and he hired me. So
That's why these are
okay, just a couple more things here. This is one that I learned early in my career from a mentor, a woman that hired me actually to be the comms person for Cambridge Police. She taught me early to focus on the 80%. This was sort of her mantra that I've tried to carry with me. That on every issue in every community, there's always going to be 10% of people that like love the town, love town hall. You're doing a great job, can't do anything wrong. They're your cheerleaders, right? And there's always going to be 10% that think you're idiots and can never get anything right? So we sort of want to leave them to the extremes and focus on that 80%, that average resident who probably doesn't think about town government that often, just wants their trash to get picked up, just wants, us to plow the roads in a storm, right? So focus on them as your target audience to provide clear, factual, and timely information. Prioritize building that trust with that middle. It's going to create stability to your online discourse, your communications, and builds that credibility over time. And I think this next slide shows how we've tried to do that and the results that we're having in Provincetown. So like I just mentioned, we currently have a community resident satisfaction survey out in the field. So here's some quick results from the first 100 responses we've gotten. So 57% of people that have responded so far are very or somewhat satisfied with the select board. 60% with an elected board, pretty good.
Not bad.
Pretty good,
Yeah.
pretty good. 70% strongly agree or agree that the town manager is responsive and transparent to community concerns, right? Right, and I don't think that could be true without the next couple of things on this side, which is that 22% of the town is getting their information from the town website, 27% from email and text alerts, which I was really surprised by, and 27% from social media. 85%, not to toot my own horn, are I trumped the town manager, by the way.
Yes, you did.
85% are very or somewhat satisfied with how the town communicates important information.
Dan, when you go for your salary review, make sure you show them that.
Yeah, thank you.
No, that's wonderful.
But that's just, that's why all of this stuff, if you're doing it right, it does pay dividends, right? And, sorry, go ahead.
How did you construct this survey? How do you capture the tenor of your residents?
Sure, so I worked with, we've done a lot of interesting projects lately with the Harvard Kennedy School. We have a really great relationship with a professor there who, when they have student labs and stuff like that work in municipalities, we've been able to partner with them and get sort of really smart people to do work for us for free. And so I had a student that was working on this with me, and I took the example of a community survey that they do in Cambridge that they repeat every 2 or 3 years. Much more robust, it's 120,000 people, they do phone calls, all that stuff. We just did a simple Microsoft Forms where people can respond. It's on the town website, paper copies are available at the library, at the COA, and at Town Hall, and I'm also doing a mailer, like I said, that should be in people's mailboxes this week to every single address in Provincetown so that folks can scan the QR code and fill that out online. So even with very limited promotion, because it's only been live now on the website for a week, we've gotten 100 responses. I expect we're going to be closer to 500-600 by the time we're done at the end of the month. I think it'll be a really good gauge for us so that we can repeat this every 2 or 3 years moving forward. There's about 60 questions. We brought the draft to the select board a couple weeks ago to get their feedback before I went live with it. And we had a good discussion and got some additional questions to ask, but standard battery of demographic questions, but then it's really about satisfaction with different town services, different town departments. all of our regulatory boards, we wanna get a gauge on how folks think that they're doing, and then stuff like communications, so that we know. So I think some of it's gonna be really fruitful. You know, I was talking to our community development director yesterday, and unfortunately, the preliminary results in that department are rough, but that's building, planning, permitting, it's always gonna be rough, right? But what can we learn from that, and what adjustments can we make, so that when we repeat this in 2 years, hopefully we see those positives increase a little bit, so. And then final takeaways are just things that we talked about already. Speed matters, but accuracy matters more. Don't just jump and fire off something. Make sure that at least, you know, in the throes of a situation, you have the best information at the time. Take a breath before you post. Sometimes I find myself getting riled up about something, and I'll draft up an email and I'll send it to the town manager first, right? I just need another set of eyes on it so we can work on it together, and sometimes we refine it and the information goes out, or sometimes we just sit on it for a day and just sort of let it marinate, and then with a clearer mind you can go back to it before it becomes public. While speed matters and accuracy matters, silence also creates the space for misinformation, so we do need to be sharing information as much as we can. Even when things are uncomfortable, we do need to share the truth and the town's reasons for doing things. That clear human communications builds the trust, and it's really our job now to anchor the conversation. We are the publisher. You can't rely on your local paper or others on social media to fill the void. You need to be putting it out, because good communications won't eliminate anger, but the better we do, it can try to prevent that chaos, so.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna open it up for questions, and I wanna make sure that we have a chance to get some of the Zoom folks in to ask a question. Can we check with our Zoom folks?
Yeah, we will,
Yes.
Yeah.
And you're gonna send the slides around too?
Yeah.
Tell us.
Oh yeah, for folks online, I'm gonna email the slides around and make sure that they get to everyone.
That's great.
That's good. So let's talk a little bit about who we might have on Zoom. Anybody, any questions?
Not yet. There are no hands up yet.
No hands up yet, okay. Back around the room. Anybody else?
What type of relationship do you have with Provincetown Independent?
I would say we have a good relationship with the Independent. We share press releases often. They reach out every few weeks when they're doing a story. I would say they sometimes take a more negative slant than I think things deserve. But we have folks on our board who have good relationships with folks who are not afraid to correct the record with reporters when it comes down to that. I mean, they sit in our select board meeting in the back corner almost every meeting to get information, and then they'll follow up directly with folks after the meeting or come in for sit-downs, but I would say it's not antagonistic.
No, and if they do something negative, we have to wear a big girl and big boy pants.
Yeah.
And just realize that that's part of it, and realize, did we say something that led them to believe a certain thing or another? So it's kind of, they're there to poke.
Yeah.
They're there, to be the, to hold us accountable. So I think we also have to realize that not every article in a newspaper is gonna be a, propaganda piece and how wonderful we are. So I think that also helps with having a good relationship.
Mark, I have one thing.
So I think you're very lucky to have that resource.
Oh, God.
It got time just to see it.
Yeah.
It's so sad what happened. When they got rid of Just Spillane, that was just a travesty, because he was a really good political reporter, and he covered things really well. And the people that are the reporters now are trying, but they're so understaffed, so we are lucky, thank you, yeah.
One of the other things I think is important to remember too is that we're all much more connected and much more engaged every day with what the paper is writing about and what's happening on social media. I'm grateful to have a town manager who is a really good gut check all the time and stays pretty cool and level-headed. And a lot of times when we think that things are bubbling up online, we'll say to each other, all right, but how many emails have we gotten? How many phone calls have come into our office about this? Does it just seem like it's a big deal? Because if people aren't spurred to action, to complain to their select board member or call our office or send us emails, it's probably not as big of a deal as online is making it seem.
You know, I think a lot of times, social media, you see, it's an echo chamber.
Yep.
You got the same 10 or 15 people on a particular site that are always just stirring up.
It's fun to pile on, right? It's fun to just shoot something negative off and then go on with your day. And that's what's happening. They're going on with their day and we're sitting with it, right? Because we're taking it personally. It's our work, it's our project, it's our program, right? So I think again, and I'm guilty of this, I have to try to get out of my own head as much as possible and realize that like, okay, if it's not making its way to public comment, if it's not making its way to our select board members as a real complaint, a lot of it is just noise that we can try to put to the side.
Very good. Kevin?
Yeah, Dan, excellent job, and I made note of one of the first things you said about, and it's to Craig's point, about the Cape Cod Times. When the town becomes the publisher of accurate information, because you pick up the Times, and it's like, I already know that, or it's never accurate.
Right.
It's so old. So by being timely and the source, we've actually blown away the, misinformation we get even from. But my question really is, and it's to the credit of Andrea Shaw-Reed that's on our select woman, who I think it was 4 years ago, started what we've done in town to build less silos, as you mentioned about information.
Yep.
So every month we have what we call a chairs meeting. It's very informal, it's not published as an open meeting, but we just share what's bubbling and get accurate handouts to them.
Yeah.
FAQs on our new fire station.
Great.
So get the message out through your allies.
Yep.
So how do you work with allies to get the message out?
That's a great question. I think it's just sort of the posture that we're taking, that we're just trying to be as communicative and transparent as possible. When there are big things we need to build support for, we will build those email lists and make sure that we're getting information directly to businesses, directly to nonprofit partners. When we were trying to pass sewer expansion, we went to every possible group that could benefit from this and had the town manager write a letter directly to them that we sent to everyone, asked for their support, asked for them to show up at town meeting. So a lot of times it depends on the issue and how serious you need to get about it, but it's building those connections to those specific groups when needed.
Yes, Doug?
And do you have any specific methods for reaching out to your business community? And we've tried to engage our business community through Chamber of Commerce and emails and so forth.
Yep.
But we don't seem to be successful. They're so busy that they don't pay attention to these communications.
It's particularly hard in our seasonal communities and things like that when this is not the time of year to try to get them too much information. What I've done when there's sort of really important issues that we want them to pay attention to, we have the email list of every business, every license holder, every permit holder, segment those out, and when it's something I really want them to pay attention to, rather than it be our licensing agent or our compliance officer that's sending them emails all the time about different things they need to do, it comes from me. I reach out on behalf of the town manager's office, so it's coming from a different person at a different level with a specific ask for them to get involved. We did that when we were doing our housing survey because we particularly wanted to hear from businesses about their housing needs for their staff and things like that, and it was fruitful.
Good, thank you.
Greg's got a question, and then Ron.
Yeah, part question, part contribution.
Okay.
So, this subject matter I come at very differently. I'm the only one in this room that has this.
Can you explain?
A flip phone.
Can you explain what that is you showed us? Some of us that are
First I thought it
visually
was a
impaired.
pager, and I was like,
Yeah.
I've never touched social media.
What is it?
What is what?
It's a flip phone, is that what you're showing people?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So for the folks on Zoom, they know what you're talking about.
I'm a byproduct of 12 years when the blogs were the driver.
Yeah.
I don't like to speak ill of the dead, but Gary Lopez was the driver. Because he's no longer with us. And his vitriol went so far, it ended up at the Superior Court in Marston.
Is there a question?
Yes,
Greg?
but it's but I gotta set the stage.
Please,
One of our
quickly.
beloved
Running out of time.
counselors, one of our beloved counselors who was clerk of this association, Her name is Deborah Dagmar. She happens to be African American. And she had to take it all the way to court. So, knowing that, and that was after my time, I got subject to a recall, okay? Which was not about throwing me out of office, it was about ending me. Because I'm not applying for any job or soliciting any client in any field, real estate or any other, if I had been successfully thrown out of office. So it's a destruction. So my point of view is, as I think my colleague who was sitting here to my left a minute ago, don't engage. What I did instead, when the blogs were coming at us, every third Thursday for 12 years, every third Thursday, Sunnyside on Main Street, I sat with the residents, face to face. And they had a chance to ask me anything they wanted. I didn't work for the town. I got a stipend to reimburse my expenses. I worked for them. It was their meeting. The local restaurateur paid for coffee. And they got to ask me. And a medium you haven't mentioned, and I totally agree with Craig when he said about the Cape Cod Times. Radio is so untapped and is so powerful and is so much better than social media because it's actual journalism. Social media never has been and never will be journalism. So I didn't create the scenario, but by doing the coffee hour, Will Crocker or Matt Pitta came over from QRC at the end of the coffee and said, Greg, what did the residents bring to your attention this month?
Yeah.
And that went on the radio for weeks.
Yeah.
That, and it was not my meeting, it was their meeting. So my suggestion to select board members and counselors is spin the table the other way, provide in person, go old school, knock on doors, and bypass social media. And the interesting fact of that coffee hour is none of the bloggers, Lopez or any of the rest, some are still around, ever came.
Right.
They never came because they could only hide behind their screen.
Thank you very much.
that's
And if you
my-
can resurrect radio news, then we've got something to talk about.
But I like, my only question is, what about radio? Because I didn't create that. The radio came to me. I didn't ask them to come to me. They decided to come to me.
Yeah,
So
and
that-
I think with radio, it depends on the market. I mean, we don't have real radio out here that people would listen to. But in Cambridge, we did WBZ radio all the time, and it was useful.
But you have a public radio station, right?
We're gonna have to break very quickly here.
Yeah, just.
Go ahead, Ron.
You know, piling on what Greg just said is, in the past, some of the comments have gone from the political to the personal.
Oh, yeah.
Personal attacks on people. And some of them pretty blatant. And I mean, I don't care, you know. They can say anything they want about me. I'll give it right back to them. And I know that there are others, even people in this room, who've taken a pretty good beating.
Yeah.
And I understand that in some places, I don't know if the towns like Wellfleet and Barnstable have official, websites, but they've been actually had to ban people or attempted to ban people from posting on those websites, and it brings up the First Amendment issue.
Yeah, that gets sticky.
So when does it cross the line? Is it up to us as individuals to if we feel we are being in some ways attacked or to basically file against the people out there, or what is the options?
I mean, that's tough for electeds, right? I mean, that really is gonna, a lot of times, be your individual choice. What I've seen some towns do with some success is, they'll put out joint statements. If it's truly a personal attack and it's other members of the select board, they'll put out sort of a joint statement about it. What is the truth, what's not? Sometimes the town is spurred to action from the actual town government, like town manager side. But it's tricky. That's sort of what we were talking about earlier, when it's difficult to get good people to run for office, because that is the question they ask themselves up front before they even jump in the ring.
Yeah, Elizabeth.
Especially when it's the town doing the personal attacks. But I digress. How do you, what do you do? I mean, it's sort of on that topic, but if a town government is divided, how is there, can you suggest any way for people on a divided board or a divided government to create together even, a workable communication strategy where, it's not really about truth, well, sometimes it is. But it's about like. Perspective. And is there a way kindly, because I am not kind, is there a way to work with people to create a strategy that will serve, that everyone at the table will feel like is serving them regardless of their point of view?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be very dependent on the issue, right? Some information is just what it is from the town and it has to go out, you don't really have to elaborate in that way. But the way that I've tried to operate is anytime there is an issue where I think it's gonna get sticky with the select board, we have it as an agenda item to discuss with the board as a whole and then get their direction. We'll often put options in the packet. Here are 3 things we're thinking of, this is the one we're leaning toward, but we're looking for your feedback so that we don't get over our skis with the board. And so we have that discussion and then it goes out after. Again, a simple example is the survey I was talking about. We could have just launched the survey, but what if I wasn't asking the right questions, or what if the select board didn't want to know what people thought of them? And I, you know what I mean? So, you just gotta be smart and know the things where there's gonna be contentious issues, have a conversation about it, and then you gotta go with what the majority of the board says.
Ed?
Yeah, well, two things. One, was what Ron said, he like I have a fairly thick skin and really don't care what happens, but unfortunately, my wife did, and that's why I stepped down. Because it just got.
Well, this is one of the reasons why we wanted to have this discussion today and this presentation from Dan, is because in many cases, this isn't just an elected official that struggles with this. There are the people that are close to that elected official, that care about that elected official. I think what Provincetown has shown us is that the town has developed a real first-rate approach in terms of its communications. And I think Dan has done an outstanding job working as a team and helping bring this town into a very special place, and a very different place. There's a lot to learn from Provincetown. I am always going online to find out what they're up to, what they're doing. One of the things we haven't talked about is what the town does in the run-up. We talked briefly about it, but in the run-up to town meeting, there is a lot of work that goes on in Provincetown in getting the community prepared for town meeting. And it may very well be that we may want to have more discussions and maybe get into the weeds on some of these things, particularly as we're making plans for our own town meetings, because they've got a pretty effective game plan and they've got some great ideas and great approaches. And the community is well engaged, so by the time you get to town meeting, things run a lot smoother. I know some communities can struggle from time to time with town meeting and just leave it at that. But communications is a huge component in terms of getting a smooth town meeting as well. Leslie?
If I might just go on, our theory is, let's define the issue before it's defined for us. Because once you have another group, if it's Facebook or whatever, defining your issue, it's hard to pull out from that. You're behind the 8 ball already.
And on that, the other point I want, what Dan said, that concept of in the agenda, putting out 3 things and maybe indicating there's one is really important. If you just put out a topic, you talk about recreation, people come up with all sorts of ideas of what you're gonna talk about before they get to the meeting. But if you, my former role in California, we never saw something on the agenda unless there was a staff recommendation. So people knew what we were gonna be talking about.
Okay, very good. Let's give a round of applause to Dan. In terms of any other businesses, really no other business unless anybody has something to bring up for the.
Just that people RSVP for the canal cruise. Please.
Yeah, we'll get more information. We'll do another blast, Kevin, right?
Absolutely.
On the next meeting, which is the 12th. Make a note of that. We're rendezvousing at what time and where?
The boat leaves at 10:30, so we want to be there before 10:30.
And we want to be where?
at the Onset Pier. Onset is part of Wareham, it's beautiful. And this is our second canal cruise in 3 years.
That's great.
Formerly
What time
considered
do we have to be there?
part of Cape
Like
Cod.
10:15, 10:15,
Nothing on the
boat
Zoom
leaves at
saying goodbye.
10:30. And it's a Monhegan,
All right.
it's a new boat, Monhegan.
Thank you, Greg, and thank you folks on Zoom for joining us, and we're gonna sign off. And, yes, Ron?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Where's it?
Carries.
Are we having a board meeting? Board?
Right here.
Yeah.
Right here. For board members, stick around.
Where are we going?